Hey, Alli, is it realistic for me to find somebody that I like the look of them on social media and think that, hey, I can look like that too?
Great question. Let's listen to our guest, Jill Stoppel-Davis, as she talks about the reality of getting Instagram bikini ready and what that really looks and feels like.
Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, where we dive deep into pressing health and fitness issues facing aging women. I'm Alli Kerr.
And I'm Shawna Kaminski. And together we'll bring candid conversations, expert advice, and personal stories that will inspire and empower you on your own wellness journey.
Shawna, we have been on this fitness journey for years, and there are all types of twists and turns. And our guest today, I can't wait to hear from Jill Stoppel-Davis about the twists and turns on her fitness journey. So welcome, Jill, to the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So let's dive in. So Shawna, where do you want to start with Jill? We know some stuff about her.
Jill, you have, I love how you came into the fitness world as, not an athlete from day one, kind of actually probably even a reluctant entrepreneur because you didn't plan on being an entrepreneur right from the beginning. So give us like a little Reader's Digest synopsis of how you landed to be the owner of Excel Wellness Studios for 20, almost 20 years.
It'll be 16 in April, but I've been in fitness for well over 20. Now, I'm going to correct you. Entrepreneurship was always in my blood. I think I was always meant and always knew I wanted my own business. I didn't think it would be in fitness. I come from a family of entrepreneurs and my grandparents, but yeah, fitness is a long shot. I was never an athlete. I was the last one picked on the playground for the sports teams. It took me a while to grow into my height. I was the chubby kid that the girls made fun of at sleepovers. And boy, did I turn it around finally. But I kind of felt, the fitness bug started biting me. Date myself, Oxygen magazine started coming out, I think when I was in high school or at the end of, and I was enamored with those girls and those physiques. And it started hitting the local gym. My mom's cousin was a trainer. He showed me a few things and I loved it. And then fast forward to K-State, and I was walking through the cafeteria as a freshman and still never played any sports, no desire. I was an artist. Got chased through the cafeteria by the women's rowing coach. And then, got introduced. Our strength coaches were the coaches for the K-State men's football program. So that was a real first big journey into weight training. And yeah, that was a crazy experience.
What is K-State? And tell us a little bit more about the rowing team and also about your
height.
You didn't mention about your height because that was one of the things you said you grew into your
Yeah. So I'm just like a quarter inch shy of 6 foot. So I'm 5. People giggle and I'm saying, no, I'm 5'11" and 3/4. Why don't you just tell me you're 6 foot? I'm like, yeah. So I was uncoordinated. My high school PE teacher, I think she came up to me. She was also the drill team coach when we were little itty bitty, she came up. I was from a small town. She comes up and she goes, when I was getting ready to graduate, I'm so glad your height and coordination, finally caught up to one another. So I was like, oh, wow. But yeah, K-State. Yes. Kansas State University. It's a Division I college here. We have 2 big universities in Kansas State and KU, the KU Jayhawks, Kansas State Wildcats. So, yeah, that was an experience. Never did I expect to be in that big of a school, having those kind of opportunities that I found out student athletes did have. But that kind of launched the fitness bug. I, at that point, became interested and wanted to start teaching group fitness. In college, there were opportunities to do that. Unfortunately, didn't fit our travel schedule with rowing at the time. So it's something I started pursuing when I was out of college and fell in love with kind of the performance side of it. Did a little bit of drama in high school too, so the performance side of teaching it, and then being in the gym and feeling strong. That's what really won me over. Something that I could do that didn't require the coordination of like a ball. It's a big win.
Yeah, and tell us with fitness, we think of fitness as like always this, oh, it's healthy, it's amazing. Talk about, and you got started from magazines and now we have social media. How can
Yeah,
fitness maybe go wrong? And speak about your journey.
sure. Yeah. So, I, in fitness, a lot of times people turn to fitness for weight loss, right? That's a big thing in our industry. And that's a big part of people's journey. And mine included. I was never, severely overweight, but I battled always wanting that. We're back to the Oxygen magazine, wanting that look. It can become an obsession, I think, sometimes, especially at a young age. I can't imagine if I'd been in my teens and 20s with social media, didn't exist, right? What that would look like. But I wanted that look from that Oxygen magazine. I started chasing that. I could never figure it out when I was rowing because of the amount of workouts we were doing, 2 a days, the amount of calories we were eating. But when I got back into fitness after college, had gained some weight because suddenly I was sedentary in a desk job. I was in art. I was in art in this time in design. I'm like, wow, how did I gain 30 pounds so fast? Well, my whole daily lifestyle, walking, workouts had changed. And that's when I went back into a gym and really, really learned how to strength train, started teaching group fitness, but then started chasing that look. Fast forward several years after that, and I found someone that knew something about figure competition and that trains women for that. And I was all in. I did 8 shows in about 3 years' time. So there was a period of time for 8 months where I never stopped dieting. And that diet it's nuts at that time. A lot of people are doing things better and a little bit more safely now. But that was, over 15, 18, almost 20 years ago. And
Yeah.
it was borderline eating disorder. Well, it was an eating disorder, really.
Well, and people don't realize, we see people lean, the lean life, and what that really looks like and what that really takes. And so that something that you were aware of going into that, or is that just something you kind of started figuring out once you got in? Like, this is
You
intense.
know, yeah, but it was at a point in my life where, I was young, I was single, I didn't have a family. I had a business, but not a brick and mortar. And yeah, it was nuts looking back. But while you were in it, it was kind of what everyone I surrounded myself with was doing. It was this team again. I had this team of friends and they were all competing, and this is what it took. And even though I knew it was overly restrictive, I was all in.
So
Mhm.
it was sort of normalized because of the people you had surrounded yourself with. Whereas if you were in a different setting, you would have been a bit freakish in terms of your, like, what you were doing, what you were eating. Maybe walk us through what was a day in the life of Jill like when you were getting ready for a physique competition?
Yeah, absolutely. Very early morning. That's where I had always been kind of a coffee obsessed, low energy kind of gal. That started even for me in high school. Um, I didn't really know what adrenal fatigue was at that point in time. Now I do. And had been in it for a long time. But I would start with a pot of coffee. I'd go do some fasted cardio. And then it was, this eating schedule, tons of protein. There was one point I got up to, I think, 300 grams of protein a day because they had taken away all my carbs. My clients that I still have 20 some years later will tell you how foggy I would get. Man, you're getting so close to that show. You are so ditzy because I didn't have any carbs.
Mhm.
They'd take away my carbs. Lots of fatigue. lots of leaning on fat burners to keep you awake, coffee all day long, removing food groups, no fruit, obsessing about food that you could eat when you came off stage.
Kind of
So
all the things we're trying to get our clients now to not do. So, I mean, we bring this up because, it does have a happy ending in that, you turned it all around, but not without some personal sacrifice. So, what did that kind of dieting lifestyle do to your metabolism?
yeah, it started this vicious cycle, and that's probably why I did so many shows in a row, because you get on this high of how you look, but that look only lasts for like the final days. It only lasts for a couple of days. You come off stage, everybody goes out for pizza, and like you wake up and suddenly, like less than a week later, for me, I'd like balloon up 25, 30 pounds instantaneously. And mentally, that messes with you so much. And then what do you do? Well, the only thing I knew was to repeat
Mhm.
and go right back into it. And then every time I do that, it would not work. It would not be as effective. The same thing we try to teach our clients now. The more you've dieted, the less effect, it's not going to work. The same things aren't going to work. So it was definitely a mental struggle. But then I got to a point where um, I'm sure there was some insulin resistance at play. That's big in our culture right now. It's a big topic because I find it hard to reintroduce carbs, and I'd find myself not knowing what to eat and very frustrated because here I am, this full book of clients, these people that I'm guiding, and I can't figure out how to keep myself in check or where I want to be.
Mm. One of the things that I love about you sharing this and where I think it's so applicable to our audience that's not competing, that are not, is that we are on social media and we are scrolling and we see these images of the what used to be the Oxygen magazine gals that is
Yeah.
now these that are, showing the, I mean, they're super, super lean. And we don't realize what that really takes, what that lifestyle really looks like, what sacrifices are really involved to have that look. And that often, again, those pictures, a lot of the pictures you see are taken at a certain point. They're not like, this is not how this person may look every day, but you take pictures when you're close to a show or a competition or a photo shoot or whatever, and then your body may change. So you were kind of on that roller coaster. And so just helping people understand, how did you feel during that time, and how, based on how you also thought you looked maybe at your best versus how you felt?
Sure. Yeah. And one thing I'll mention is I remember adding up one time how many hours I was spending cooking and training and working out, and it was a part-time job. It was
Mm.
a good 25 hours a week. I was tired all the time, very moody. It was hard to, my brother lived with me for a period of time during that while he was in school. And, it's just very hard to get along with people. You're always kind of on edge because, you're not getting the carbohydrates. You're training all the time or taking naps. It was, very hard to function normally.
Yeah, I think that's so important to highlight because, while for you, you may have looked fantastic like from the outside for about a week, but when people are scrolling on socials, they're seeing post after post of people and they get this impression that this is how people look day in and day out. And so the outside look and the commitment to how what you have to do to look that way, and then the fleetingness of how long that look lasts and the mental toll it takes. It just is such valuable information to create an awareness for people. So, again, as Ali said, thank you for sharing that. So, what happened after competition eight, whereby it's
Yeah.
like, this is my last one? You hung up your posing suit. What happened?
Um, well, the catalyst was I was opening my facility, and I knew, hey, there's no way I can maintain that type of training and that type of like brain fog and have success going into this. I need to put my energy into this. So that was the practical reason. But it was very challenging because I didn't always look how I wanted to look. And I think that part was hard. And but that's what kept like, nope. And I toyed. There was a point in time where I toyed with like, hey, maybe I'll start training for this. And then I would start in and be like, oh, this is too hard. I don't think I have this in me anymore. And then it started clicking like, hey, I think I've really done some damage here. And I was starting to hear stories from some of my other friends that had kind of quit competing and were kind of on the same journey as I was. It was really hard to find the motivation sometimes to get the workouts in. It was really hard to navigate what in the world to eat. I could help everyone else surrounding me, but I couldn't figure out what my body would tolerate. And then I started jumping in and trying all kinds of different programs and all the things our clients get sucked into and don't know which way to turn because there's so much information out there. Like, should I try keto? Well, maybe intermittent fasting will work for me. So I went down that path after too. And different doctors, different naturopaths, holistic people, tried it all.
It's so interesting that you say that as even a fitness professional, how confusing this ball of string can be, untangling what is the right path. And I am a firm believer that what works for Jill doesn't work for me or for Alli. Like, everybody has their own set of habits that will work best for them, but trying to figure that out. But my guess is, based on the work that you're doing now, which we're going to get you to explain about, is that there are certain premises that hold true for all individuals where healthy nutrition is concerned. Would you agree?
100%.
So maybe expound a little bit on what you feel are the tenets of nutrition that are worthwhile for the Girls Talk Healthy Aging listeners to follow, and what you adhere to yourself now and with your clients.
Yeah. Over the last 3 to 4 years, I finally figured out kind of a recipe that worked better for me. I'm almost 47. I have a 7-year-old, and then I have a 24-year-old stepdaughter. So I have a business, a busy family, and I like to teach a more moderate approach and things that I found for me that fit into a busy lifestyle. I think that's what a lot of our clients get hung up on is I don't have time to cook. I don't have time to do all this meal prep that I see on Instagram. But I want those kind of results. Maybe at this point in life, I just can't get it. So I like to teach them that they can. I'm as lean as I want to be at this point in my life and in a much easier way of getting there. The one thing I like to start with is stress and sleep. We talk a lot about that and trying to improve that. And then we like to lean into a little bit more shorter, efficient workouts. I don't push a lot of cardio on. I work with a lot of women, and specifically in my program, they're 40 plus demographic. We don't do a lot of cardio. We talk about walking to reduce cortisol levels and stress. We dive into that. And then we start, as nutrition goes, eating more. It actually turns into a bit more of a reverse diet with women, which just means increasing our calories. 90% of the women that come sit down in front of me are under eating and over exercising because they think what they did in their 20s is now going to still work, but it's not. And they're really frustrated. And they're having mood swings because, they're hungry and they're just trying to do too much.
Isn't it? One thing I find is that getting women to eat more is a big challenge, because when they come into your program, the first thing they're expecting is that you're going to slash calories. And when you say, hey, we're going to increase, it is a very difficult thing for women to do. It does blow their mind because they can't understand. But then it's the quality of food that you're getting them to eat.
Yeah. And they realize pretty soon how much more energy they have, usually in the first week. Oh my gosh. Well, I don't need that afternoon Starbucks. I feel pretty good. My mood's better. Wait, what? I also have this thing where I'm like, there's not like, there's no bad food list. Okay. There's better choices we should make, but I put potato chips on our food plan because I want them to be excited to eat more and know that they can enjoy everything. They're shocked that I push fruit. We have fruit. We're not vilifying any food groups here because that's not what is sustainable for people. I think you can do those kind of things for a short period of time, but I'm a perfect example. It'll backfire on you at some point if you start pulling those things out and focus on one thing.
I read a recent study that most people can lose weight. It's not the problem with weight loss. There's a 95% chance that you're going to regain the weight. So the key is finding that sustainable plan. Now, do you find that when you start working with these women, that initially, when the way I do it with this reverse diet, and I'm curious as how your experience is that my clients that are eating very little, we still need to create a calorie deficit to lose weight, but we can't eat less. So we try and do more. So trying to fuel them more and then just increase their step count. My goal for women is to just say, hey, we're not going to lose weight for a little bit, but let's just eat more and not gain. Is that kind of your goal with your women in the beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. I try to keep them off the scale. I do use, I'm sure just like you, we do body fat. I have an in body here. So I try to get in their heads. It's in my programs, it's a lot more mindset than anything, to be completely honest. And trying to let them relax and just trust the process and try something different, really leaning into, well, has it been working? Let's try this and let's get you and lean into, are you feeling better? Yes. And then, I just try to keep them off the scale. Like the scale is so hard because it doesn't show the whole picture, as you ladies know. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of more the approach we take.
Yeah.
And for most of them, they know they're eating more, but I kind of try to sneak it in. And if they've been eating very little, we just start slowly moving it up. And I lean into let's feel better and get more energy from your food. And then we'll see what's happening with the scale.
Because generally speaking, creating that calorie deficit is done through activity. So when you eat a low amount, when you're in extremely low calories, you feel like a bag of soup and you don't even realize that you're not moving. So just starting to increase your calories, you have a bit more pep in your step. You have the energy to go out and do a walk, even if you're not starting like heavy lifting or anything extreme for the beginning. You just feel better, and then you can wrap your head around, oh, I could actually get a workout in now because I have the energy for it. So I think it's really important that work that you're doing, sharing that, hey, women, these low calorie diets are not serving you.
Yeah, and reminding people that it's the low calorie diets, it's these crazy rules around some of the programs that, think about when you've done one before, how bad you fall off or how excited you are when the end date turns around. And that end date usually means, okay, great, I can go out and have a piece of pizza. I try to take it, I don't want them ending the program and doing that with me. So we start out with kind of 6 weeks, and then we go into things where they can sustain it and alumni programs. And the cool thing is, most of my alums are staying the course and maintaining it. So we found some things that they like. They feel like they're still able to get their treats in and enjoy life and have a normal social life. I think that's a big one. That was something like when you asked about competing earlier, there was no social life. There was no going out to dinner. There were things like I would show up with my Tupperware of chicken at a restaurant. It was crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny because, you realize how much your social life revolves around food and then how limited you are. So, helping clients find ways to navigate social activities without feeling deprived and enjoying them really increases their quality of life. And when you have quality of life, it is sustainable. So, kudos to you for being able to turn your kind of negative experience about, food, dieting, body image, turning that into a positive, because all the feelings that clients have, you've probably experienced at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. Your journey is what you're able to teach and share, right? It's your story. So I'm thankful that I've had that story. I've had a lot of those experience of, searching for the answer. So when they come in, I've been there. May not look like to them at the moment, but that's what I share is like, I do understand where you're at and I have felt those same frustrations and we're going to figure how to get you away from that.
And the lean life is one of the things that I know that I hope that our listeners are hearing. And Shawna and I have both competed at some point in our journey as well. So we're very familiar with that. But the lean is not always like you don't always feel better. You're not always at your strongest when you're lean. When you don't always feel your best. Like, and being able to appreciate feeling good. You talk about these women eating and getting energy and just how important it is about how we feel, not just how we look or how thin we are, how lean we are. But one of the things I know I want to impress upon my ladies is always, how do you feel? And when are you at your strongest and you feel your best? Because that's where we want to be. And so how do you get that message to your ladies?
We talk too about adding in, our morning routines and what do we do in our evening routine? And are you taking time? One of my things is once we kind of figure out, we do a little homework about what their why is. Not necessarily a goal, but what is your why? We have to tap into what our why is. And then from there, we figure out what that daily non negotiable is. And basically, all I'm doing is helping them create some time for themselves. A lot of the women I work with, they're busy in their career, they have kids. Maybe they are a stay at home mom, but everything revolves around the kids' schedule. And they've stopped putting their selves first. They haven't created any you time. So we take some you time back. We try to find ways to energize them and to make sure that they're celebrating their wins every day and staying consistent. And that's really taking some time for yourself, I think, is an important lesson and something that should be prioritized.
If you had a wish for our listeners today, what would it be, Jill?
Give yourself some grace and stop beating up, so hard on yourself. It's that consistent showing up for you, showing up at the gym, treating yourself well with your food choices. Think about that. Would you feed your kid that whole bag of potato chips and brownies you're about to binge on? Probably not. Treat yourself a little better.
But still have a potato chip and a brownie. I love that you don't vilify the food, but just think about, especially for the moms in the crowd, putting it into perspective as, I like the way you say that. Would you give your child that bag of chips and say, go to town? Probably not. You should treat yourself with the same love as you would your child. And my wish for our listeners is that our listeners pick up a little bit of what you are laying down, Jill, that we stand for, of sustainable nutrition and lifestyle, finding quality and knowing that you are good enough in the body that you're in. And, you want to be eating well and moving well so that you can function and enjoy life, not just so that you can fit into a bikini.
Focus on how you feel. how we feel is the most important.
Yeah. And function. Like the older I get, the more I mean, I'm still vain, but I'm focusing more on being able to move well and do the things I love and hopefully look not too offensive in the process.
Thanks for listening. You'll find me, Alli, on Instagram at Alli Kerr Fitness.
And you'll find me, Shawna, on Instagram at Shawna Kaminski. Feel free to pop us a DM with questions and or feedback.
If you're enjoying the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, please subscribe and share it with other health-minded women. Ratings and reviews are also much appreciated and help us get our message out to a larger audience.
Until next time, be healthy and be happy.